Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse GODSPEED. I believe this is Rebirth? Yes, DC Rebirth according to the packaging, I don't know. I got it because, so I got this figure and the CW Flash so that I could review them together and talk about how bad the CW Flash looks. But I decided I didn't want to pay for that at the time, so I don't have the Flash yet. But I'm still going to eventually get it and do a review on it just for the comedic value. But I did want to review this guy because it looked pretty cool, which is kind of a problem, and we're going to talk about that. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 18.5 centimeters, which is going to make him pretty close to 7 and, well, let's just say 7¼ inches, a little more than that. I know I'm filming this one a little bit dark because he's such a light figure, so hopefully it's okay and I can adjust the lighting enough that you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so let's get into it. I said it looked cool, so I wanted to get it, and that's kind of a problem. Here's the problem. It looks really cool there. It's such a different figure than the one that's right here, though, it's not even funny. Specifically in the crotch region, that diaper is perfectly acceptable. They cut away from his peeper up over the leg so that the leg has room to move. He still has a peeper area, and everything's still good. But on the final release, they made his diaper way thicker. And so it affects the legs and it affects the look overall. This figure also seems to have a much broader chest and better designed shoulder articulation, and a lot of different things. And obviously the color scheme is way different. I don't really mind this kind of coppery gold, but either way, it's not the same as the promo image at all, and it looks significantly less good, especially in the diaper region. But it is well textured. The whole suit has texturing throughout. Like, not every individual panel has texturing, but it kind of does. It's a very faint texture compared to the promo image for all the main body, but you do get the heavier quilting around there, and it looks pretty good. There are wrinkles around. All of the gold parts are sculpted and painted, so that's pretty cool. Head sculpt is alright. Mine has a big line going across the middle of it, which is kind of annoying. But it's alright, it's painted well enough and it looks good, so I'll take that. Proportioning's super weird on this guy. His legs are definitely too big, and his torso's too small, and his hands are tiny. Now, if you're going for realism, small hands are somewhat reasonable on a really muscular guy because your bones don't get that much bigger when you work out, believe it or not. And hands are mostly bone. But on superheroes, I don't know, the hands being tiny doesn't look great. But I think part of the reason the hands look so tiny is the legs are really long. So yeah, his proportions are definitely just weird. It's also weird that he's sculpted with such a curve to his leg. Like, I know there's some curve in the shin, but not that much. Like, the neutral pose for this guy is have his leg completely bent backwards, hyperextended. So that's very strange. There's a lot of weird things going on with this guy that I'm guessing once you pose him go away, but we're going to get into the posing in a little bit. So aesthetically speaking, it's good in some ways. The gold line work is nice. The sculpt work detail-wise is nice. Proportions are super weird, and the crotch piece is nowhere near as good as the promo images made it look. And just the overall torso. Look at the diaphragm area. I want to zoom in on this a little bit. That looks so much better than what we have here. The way they make the pecs relatively small and then give us this big whole upper abdominal section above the abdominal section, it makes the figures look so frumpy. The big diaper and the fat overlay from the rib piece, it takes away their shape a lot, which is a little bit unfortunate. So yeah, he's only going to get a 6 out of 10 for the aesthetic. Paint job's nice, sculpt is nice in some areas, but overall it's kind of weird looking. I guess we can do a cake rating right now, get it out of the way. This guy's got pretty good set of cake right here. Cakes, cake, singular, is it a cake? Or is each side a cake? I'm not sure how the cake thing works, but I do have to give a rating. And this guy's gonna get a 9 out of 10. That is pretty much what you want in terms of cake. That's where it's at. Okay, so accessory-wise, we do get the trading collector whatever card that is most likely not something somebody wants to keep, as a sad reminder that the figure on the card looks so much better than the one in your hand. We get the black display stand, which is just about on par with the card. And then we get two relatively dull lightning effects, well sculpted. They kind of snap onto the figure-ish, but not very well. They're just okay. So accessory-wise, 3 out of 10. Having these gnarled up hands on the figure, not a great thing when you don't have any alternate hands. Okay. Alright, so let's talk about the articulation. The head is on a double ball peg, and it moves around pretty well. No real issue there. That just goes to show double ball pegs are great. And this one doesn't have any gapping, so if you allowed a little bit of gapping, you get even better range. But that is pretty good. Now, here's an interesting thing. This torso piece is 2 pieces, one on the front, one on the back, and then obviously the whole neck is a separate piece. When you raise the arm, it splits the seam. So that's not cool. It doesn't have to, but mine did. Like, you can avoid it when you know it's a thing, but mine definitely did. So as far as the shoulder range goes, that ball gives you better than normal. It moves around a lot, but that cap moves with it, and the cap split my seam. So that's not great, but once you're aware of it, you should be able to avoid it, kind of tuck things in and get the arm where you want it, and then it'll look pretty good. Yeah, that's not bad. Shoulder works nicely once you are aware that you might break your figure by using it. But yeah, you get better than horizontal range. Full rotation, of course. Bicep swivel is okay, though they did sculpt the bicep onto the shoulder again and then just cut it away. So that's super weird. Double jointed elbow works fine. It's a little bit better than most. We have the sculpted joints for the wrist, which is not necessary. That's extra budget that didn't need to happen. Like, you can't really tell it's sculpted, and it gets in the way of the posability a little bit. Just use a regular ball hinge. It's fine. I mean, it works. It's not a problem. It's just you don't need to spend the budget on that. No one's looking at that part of the wrist. Like, that little wrinkle right there on the wrist is all you're really getting that you wouldn't have on a standard ball hinge that you could use 1,000,000 times and use the same mold on a bunch of figures. So that's a little bit weird. Torso articulation. This one's a little bit weird, guys. Usually they can't lean forward. This guy, his upper torso doesn't lean back at all, and it goes forward relatively far. But they put too much plastic coming down off of the rib cage down into the abdominal section so that it has very limited range in that sense. But the joint itself is not limited. Ho! It's not limited by the joint, just by the sculpt. So that's a good thing. It does lean to the side nicely and rotate, of course. Now the ball peg down here, it moves around pretty well, but just like they brought the plastic from up here down too far, they brought the plastic right here up too far. They need to have much narrower diapers. Cut away from the leg, cut away from the abdomen, and you'll have much better posability. This guy's okay, but it definitely could be better with almost no effort. And if you have an X-Acto knife, cut some of that off. There's enough sculpt in here that you could get away with it. No problem. If you're a kid, adult supervision. If you're an adult, make good decisions. Don't just hack away your figure. Make sure you know what you're doing. But you could definitely cut away a decent couple of millimeters at least. Even if you wanted to leave those gold things on there, you could, but they're underneath, so you don't have to. You could definitely get yourself a little bit better range and a better aesthetic by trimming away some of that. And even technically up here, you could also do a little bit of trimming up here if you wanted to, but that's, again, totally up to you. All right, for the hips, full-on splits, no problem. That's fine. That's good. They're a little bit loose, but it's not bad. Bring the legs forward. The diaper flexes, but it wouldn't have to if you just trim that away, which, again, you could definitely just trim away a little bit of the diaper. I wouldn't do a ton, but you could definitely do a little bit because you don't want to have a giant gap there, but you could take some out and you'd be okay. But they do pose pretty well. Going back, the cakes get in the way, so that's a little limiting, but it's not bad. Thigh swivel is there, but barely. Double jointed knee, very loose, very gappy. I don't know why they made it so tall. You don't need that giant gap right there. You shouldn't have it, in fact, because in real life the knee is a single joint. So you want to try to keep these two pieces as close together as possible when you bend them. So you get really good range though. Ankles are sculpted ball hinges. You have decent range going back, decent range going forward. Has a few extra notches compared to normal, but it's still fairly heavily ratcheted. And then of course you can rotate that and use your ankle rocker for a pure perfect ankle rocker on that ball hinge. So that's fine. Toe hinge is pretty well placed. It's a little bit soft though. It's not gonna, dang it, focus. It's soft. It's not gonna hold a pose, but it's in the right spot. Okay, so final verdict on this guy's articulation. It's acceptable. You should be able to pose it pretty well. A little bit of looseness here and there, a little bit of weird stuff here and there, but it's not bad. It's probably one of their more solid overall type releases. I'll give the articulation on this guy an 8. It does work pretty well. Torso is better than most, could be better still. They're inching just ever so slightly toward better range of motion without any more cost, which is why it's such an egregious problem when it doesn't work. But overall rating on this guy, I'm gonna go 8 out of 10. I think it's a pretty good release. It definitely has a lot of issues, no doubt, and the trading card looks so much better than the figure, and the figure could be so much better without costing them any more. It would probably cost them less if they did the things I wanted them to do, but they didn't hire me when I applied for a position there, so this is what we get. Anyway, 8 out of 10. It's a strong release. If you like Godspeed, if you think the design is cool, go ahead and get it, pose it up, and you won't notice a lot of the issues, and I think you'll be fine. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think about the figure in the comment section below. I'll pin a comment if someone says something interesting or funny or who knows what. And if you did like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it. That's very helpful. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down and share it in a mean way. That's fine too. And if you haven't subscribed, I recommend you do. I have new videos every day but Wednesday, and I have thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.